What is going on? So last year, I don't know if you remember this, I did a video on Aaron Belk, this guy who was hearing these bizarre booming sounds all over Idaho. A lot of people thought it was fake, others heard the same thing.
We are not supposed to talk about the booms.
Evidently, there's a lot more booms going around than I first realized. I thought it was just here local to Rigby, Idaho, but it's not.
After that, on January 14th, Derek Debbie did a video on these mysterious vibrations that he started hearing and feeling underneath his farm in Kentucky.
I have no idea what's going on. But listen to this. There's something under the ground.
Then after that, he rented a bulldozer and he's right now still trying to find out where these mysterious vibrations are coming from. At the time, I thought it could be fake and maybe he's just trying to get some attention. But then I started digging around and I found a bunch of other videos of people actually hearing and feeling the same thing all over the US.
I don't know if I'm being skit or something.
I thought I'd make a video on what James had indicated in his video regarding hearing strange noise and vibrations and effects to do with that of electric effects, observer effects, and ambient sound and cymatics. Now, that is what I've determined that to be to do with, but it's also from a like that of a physical apparatus. That is probably deep in the earth, the crust, and it's probably something to do with bedrock being chiseled away. So to do with that of tunnel boring machines and machinery of earthworks and field works. It could be to do with also owning the weather by 2025 and ambient vibratory sound effects to do with Project Bluebeam and other projects like that. There are many Black Ops projects reminiscent of that are connected to do with that. And so primarily though, cymatics. So cymatics to do with that of ether theorems to do with luminiferous ether theorems. And so ether theorems to do with that of electromagnetics. And so magnetics, vibration, and sentient world environment, that to do with synthetic environments for analysis and simulation. So that is active projects that are very high-tech, really high-tech apparatus and equipment and tools that have been manufactured and constructed deliberately for the express purposes of scanning tech, Internet of Things. So the everyday devices that we are utilizing to do with that of a universality of, as example, every microchip, silicon is the copious material to do with that. And so sand and electrolytics and electrolytes, and so salt and the content of moisture in the atmosphere, and that of anthropomorphism, so association to do with that of objects, and human characteristics to do with that of inanimate objects and animated objects. And so as though there being a bionics to do with that. And so we're talking about stationary objects and in stationary positions, but you know, you carry your mobile phone in your back pocket and there's a radiation coming off it, and that's been proven of hair loss on the thigh. So there seems to be a significance to do with that of copious materials and contents of the environment, and that of a singular duality, multiplicity. So there's complex theorems going on here, and creationist theorems. And so to do with that of a high-tech apparatus and an esotericism, So secretive, Kabbalist kind of stylizing, fashioning, and a social engineering. So like I've written a 1,000-page book. This is why. Of analysis and somewhat of biography, with supportive evidence of, with facts and empirical data and epistemological informative approach. But ultimately to assist myself and also anybody else who wants to really delve into what the heck is going on. So, and it's not mass hysteria as such. That seems to be like an after effect, an after occurrence. And so that of such, whether hearing voices, whether radio transmission, or to do with what I've referred to as neural biomapping of the neural synapses, the effects of a psychogenic, so psychological conversion, and a denial syndrome, and so an emphasis of syndrome to do with that, of some mass formation psychosis, to do with such mass hysteria. And back in the 1700s, when psychology curriculum studies conventional methods, it was referred to as hysteria. And so that crazy, mad kind of... So it seems to be to do with that of like an ergot significance to do with witchcraft. Now, a lot of people, like over 100,000 people, were apparently persecuted for being witches back then. Now, the same kind of thing has been going on, but there's farmland that is being bought up. So there's a significance to do with that of adjacent to 19 United States military facilities. 19. And so there's a metric encoding going on. There's a social code going on. There is a esotericism, as though an ignorance, an obnoxious, formulated, full steam ahead kind of scientism, so to do with conventions of science and scientific method, but as though a weaponized, open-ended, open dialogue, manipulated as though a gains of cognitive sensory acknowledgements and of hysterical madness and insanity to do with the psychology. So you got to understand about what I said briefly earlier. I meant to say a conversion process psychologically to do with that of a psychogenic, so to do with the psychology of the mind, the cognition, so a cognition, but of a psychological conversion to a neurogenic reaction, response, and a cognition in inertia. So as though a cognitive decline that's not meant to happen, but it's been happening because what I highly suspect is a neural toxification, NOx, so noxious material contents, and a nosphore to do with that, to extents of vampirism, but of a biotechnical variety to do with that. So we're talking about like Unit 731 of Japan back in 1950s, and previous to that 1940s. But anyway, there's a lot to do with that I've covered in the book and the audiobook. So you can sit there and just listen to the audiobook. You don't have to be reading a 1,000-page book if you don't want to, but you can sit there and relax and listen to what I explain. And at the very least, it's of a endeavor of simply teaching and learning and studying and analyzing, want to know more, and understanding what the heck we are living through. And so primarily I'll just finish with saying this, that there has been changes occurring here to do with what we all call home, but questionable circumstances to do with simulation theory, creationist theory, and matter creation and photoluminous, electroluminous, electrochemical, electric effects, observer effects, so as though invisible, and reaction, and manipulation, deceptive circumstance, a treacherous sense to do with that, of especially observer effects to do with physics, as though mechanical technology used an observance, something else happening to the particle, and then biological observance, something else happening. So that of the double slit experiment is the further example of that. But anyway, I could go on, I could talk about this all day. Just answering that of James' questions, what is going on here, and also reinforcing and supporting what I've been writing about and the turmoil and ordeal that I've been through personally, but utilizing that as a further example, as though kind of like a crutch, and a support. Thanks for listening.